Well, Wayne Madsen is a Washington, D.C. investigative journalist, and he's written for the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Houston Chronicle, Miami Herald, and hundreds of major publications online. And he, of course, worked in submarine warfare before joining a high-security job managing a large team at the National Security Agency. He wrote the best-selling book, The Handbook on Personal Data Protection. He also wrote other acclaimed books on the data protection law, genocide and covert operations in Africa. He's a frequent witness before the House of Representatives on UN criminal tribunal law, Rwanda massacre, terrorism, international panel for the French government. He travels all over the world to war zones to cover things for us and for his own site, WayneMadsenReports.com, WayneMadsenReport.com. And Madsen is a member of the Society of Professional Journalists and the National Press Club. But the real reason he's here is NSA. And he was on right after Obama got elected, and he said they are intensifying persecution of whistleblowers. They've set up a classified group. He gulped and gave us the name. I got threats over it. He had to leave the country for a while because he was told by national security sources they've got button men on the street. And you better go public about this, but also, you know, give it time for them to call back the hitmen. And by the way, I've had multiple people he got me in contact with for the show they end up killing. So this isn't a game. He can really tell you a lot. I mean, I'll put it to you that way. He's the guy that told people years ago, meet in parking garages. You know, like Drudge has been saying, meet in parking garages, because it's all surveilled. And he joins us. And I want to get into working at the NSA. I know it's classified, but I mean, obviously, this is all coming out. It's a lot of it's hidden in plain view. What can you talk about that's been leaked or declassified or inadvertently declassified? I know that's one way to talk about stuff that normally you couldn't talk about. What do you think of Snowden? Where's all this going? Is the answer to the persecution of whistleblowers more people going public? Because I see that happening. Is the Iron Fist backfiring? Go over it all, Wayne Madsen.
Well, yes, Alex. I want to congratulate you on giving it to those slack-jawed poltroons meeting over at Bilderberg. They need the light of day. But what the deal with Mr. Snowden, Ed Snowden? I have been in contact over the last several years with many NSA whistleblowers, also whistleblowers from other intelligence agencies, CIA and lesser-known ones. And I mean, he is the typical case. Except that at least in his case, he took some measures to leave the country. I'm not sure about this strategy of going to Hong Kong. He may turn out to be a pawn between China and the United States. But everything he said has been verified to me by former people who worked at NSA and people who are still there. I'll give you an example. I just was contacted by somebody who still works in the NSA community, and said that there are people who have access to this material, this PRISM-type metadata, who are spying on their spouses, ex-spouses, and even selling some of the information to private investigators on the outside. Is that terrorism? Is that counterterrorism? I think not.
And that's exactly what Snowden said. And I talked to one of these globalists when I was in England. And I brought up the point that I've gotten the calls, my wife's gotten them, where they tell you what you were just talking about in a previous phone call to then say, hey, do I got your attention? I'm going to cut your head off if you don't back off, buddy. And the point is that I know a lot of people. You see cops all the time using the databases they have that are nothing compared to this to harass ex-wives or husbands or whatever. And that's what Snowden said. He said analysts are running around doing whatever they want. And you know, now they've got Alexander and others at NSA saying that isn't true. Wayne, tell us what your whistleblowers are telling you.
Well, basically, they're verifying what Snowden had to say. Now, it's funny how the people who support NSA, the group that's the internal NSA security group, and they obviously went and knocked on his mom's door in Ellicott City, Maryland, the other day. These people make the FBI look like the Girl Scouts. These are these Q group people. It's called the Q group. They have basically no oversight. They also work closely with a group at NSA of psychiatrists and psychologists. So anytime a whistleblower comes forward, they call these shrinks call the people in, and then they're determined to be crazy, and then they use that as a pretext to take their access away.
Now, by the way, this is nowhere in the news, but the last a few years that you broke at WayneMadsenReport.com, and now this will probably break because now attention's on it. I mean, we've had so many whistleblowers on, but I mean, this is from. Tell people specifics on the Q group because you're the originator of that information. You're up there on Capitol Hill. I mean, the Q group, this is the Praetorian Guard of the Big Brother Snoop system. Tell us about them.
Well, this is NSA's own little KGB and Stasi all wrapped up in one. They're the internal security. Now, when I worked at NSA, it was called the M Group. Yeah, obviously, an intelligence agency like NSA is going to have a group responsible for security and counterintelligence. But now the Q group has grown in size to more than 300 people. It's become a force unto itself. It's an intelligence agency within an intelligence agency. And what they do is the reason you're going to get more whistleblowers coming forward is the word out of NSA is they're now really cracking down. Every time there's a leak like this, they really get tougher and tougher on their employees. So obviously you're going to see. Well,
it's like ATF a few months ago, that video, it said, the acting director said, A, don't show people this video, so people released it, and B, you must be subservient and do what we say and only talk about corruption through channels, which breeds corruption, and people are sick of it. I'm sorry, but I mean, you agree with me. The reason then that you see so many whistleblowers is that they're harassing people.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, the people on the inside of NSA, whether they're military or civilian employees, government employees of NSA, or contractors, as was Snowden. Now, I know he went back and forth between contractor and government employee. They all say the same thing. There are abuses taking place. Misters Binney and Wiebe and Tice and Tom Tam from the Justice Department and Loomis and so many others, Tom Drake, they've all come out and said the same thing. These were senior level people at NSA. So it's across the board that the abuses are happening. And you've got General Alexander, who's I think now probably the longest serving director of NSA. Before him, it was General Hayden. You've got these guys that are becoming like the FBI director, 10-year terms, it seems. You got Alexander. How many Bilderberg meetings did he attend in the past? He didn't go this year, but I counted them. He's gone to 5 in the past. So he says he's loyal to the Constitution. It looks like he's more loyal to the bylaws of the Bilderberg group. I've never seen an NSA director go to these groups, these foreign groups, where he's obviously violating the Logan Act. That's another act that ought to be enforced. These people can't conduct their own foreign policy, but he probably has a pass from Obama, as he had a pass from Bush. The other thing is, people are attacking Snowden. They're saying, well, he couldn't have had all this access, and he worked at the CIA, and he worked here, and he said he made $200K. We know that these contractors raid other contractors. They get signing bonuses to go from one contractor to another. The people who are making these comments have no knowledge how the NSA world operates.
They're complete morons. My dad was offered in the 80s like $400,000 a year as a oral surgeon to go work in black operations that involved planning things and spies. Basically, he wasn't told more than that, in cybernetic type stuff. And I mean, that was like $1 million back then. People have no idea that the low-level contractors now are getting like $100,000 a year just to do contract security, and that most of them are getting $200,000.
Yeah, and there's something else about Snowden, why they're being very silent at the White House, and why they're reacting so fiercely. Dianne Feinstein and this guy Peter King calling him a traitor and saying that the reporters ought to be also prosecuted. There is and I haven't written about this yet in light of the recent developments, but there is a group that is a joint NSA-CIA activity. It's known internally as F6. It's called the Special Collection Service. It's located in Beltsville, Maryland, and not far from NSA headquarters. And what they do is they go abroad and put in bugs. They're like your James Bond type thing. So they have the technicians with NSA, and then they got the CIA guys that facilitate this. These are black bag operators, and the fact that Snowden was stationed in Misawa at the NSA base in Japan, and he was in Kuniya at what they call NSA Hawaii on the island of Oahu, and that he worked at the CIA for a short time and said he did some work in Switzerland and in other countries in Europe. He could, in fact, be the first whistleblower out of the Special Collections Service, F6. He wouldn't be the first one who ratted this organization out.
And he says a lot more is coming.
Yeah.
What do you think he saw that freaked him out so bad? I mean, he's probably had the same access to stuff like Sibel Edmonds. He probably knows the things that the shadow government's running. Yeah. Apparently there's a few reports that he actually has a list of people who were being surveilled. This has come out before. These leaks have happened over the last several decades. I remember there was a woman named Peg Newsham that worked at the NSA facility in Menwith Hill in the UK. She was a contractor. I believe it was for Lockheed. But she said that she overheard Strom Thurmond talking on the phone. So when they talk about we don't target Americans, there is enough evidence that that's just patently false. And General Clapper, like all these guys in the intelligence community, all they do is cover up when they're caught. They do the soft. Can you talk about what you did at the NSA without?
Yeah, sure. I worked in communications security, so I was on the side of the NSA, which we have to protect our own communications. That's I guess pretty much the benign side of it. But I do know that anyone, because of operation security and communication security, that anyone who used a government telephone or used government computers was liable to be listened in on by NSA. It's part of the deal. Even the president, because the president would speak on something called a secure telephone unit. NSA had the codes for that. So conceivably, yes, even then the president could be listened in on. But that's not what Snowden was saying here. They're saying that's ridiculous that he could listen to the phone calls of the president. That's not what he said. He said if I had a personal email account for President Obama, I could read his email. That's what he said. But everybody's taken what this guy said out of context. They're attacking the messenger.
What do you think they'll try to do to him?
Oh yeah, well, I hope he's got another plan. I would not want to see him stay in Hong Kong. I've made some efforts to try through intermediaries to get in touch with him if he's still in Hong Kong. There are other alternatives he should look at. But what the Justice Department will do is go to Interpol and get a red notice, and arrest warrant issued. The Secretary of State, Kerry, could revoke his passport, which would make him a stateless person and make him illegal in Hong Kong. He can stay there for 90 days, but if they revoke his passport, his 90-day visa is worthless. The idea that he might go into the mainland China, he could turn up being a pawn between two superpowers, not a good idea. But this brings up an interesting point, Alex. There's not a whole lot of countries where Americans could go to escape. This is, Cuba, maybe Venezuela.
We've got Jones Dautier, the member of the Icelandic Parliament, coming on Friday. She's trying to get him to go there, but if that's the case, he'll have to still hide out because they'll just send a woman into his room to claim he raped her.
Yeah, and the other thing about Iceland, there's a new right-wing government there. This isn't the former government that had this idea will become a free zone for information. It's a new government. It's a right-wing government. And Iceland's a member of NATO. Some people suggested that he go to New Zealand. There's people there that would said they would try to give him asylum. We got this mega upload guy in New Zealand that.
What about Sweden? What about Sweden?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend Sweden. They
WikiLeaks.
Yeah, with the WikiLeaks thing, there's not a whole lot of havens for us anymore.
Is New Zealand good? I mean, where?
This guy Mega Upload, who the U.S. wants extradited for, they say, he stole some intellectual property from billionaires in Hollywood in the recording industry. The Supreme Court of New Zealand, apparently the courts have shot down that extradition request. So he's still there. So
yeah, nowadays they would extradite Serpico and probably publicly hang him on television. I mean, this is how are things going for the New World Order right now? I mean, obviously they cannot be happy about everybody was starting to blow the whistle on them and the fact that they've been using the NSA against libertarian groups.
Well, people are getting tired of the United States as the bull in the china shop. I think it was interesting just the other day that former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Prime Minister Lubbers, said that he revealed that there's 22 U.S. nuclear weapons at a NATO base in the Netherlands. And here's a case where the Air Force, the Dutch Air Force, said he's not supposed to be talking like that. This is a former prime minister. I think more and more people are willing to talk about these things. And as far as Mr. Snowden's concerned, he's one in a long line of people who have come forward. Remember, in the lead up to the Iraq War, a woman at GCHQ, a Chinese linguist named Catherine Gunn, came forward and said, look, here's the classified emails telling us to eavesdrop on all the members of the UN Security Council who are sitting on the fence on that war resolution to authorize the invasion of Iraq. Everybody knew that she did not do that on her own. That Robin Cook, the foreign secretary, that's ultimately in charge of GCHQ, that's Britain's NSA counterpart,
sure,
probably with a wink and a nod said, "Go ahead and
sure,
reveal this." And then we all know what happened to Robin Cook. They said he died of a sudden heart attack. He fell down and hit his head while hiking.
Well, obviously the answer to this is not to lay down for people to stand up, but yeah. Take Sibel Edmonds, where it was white slavery, weapons, running Al-Qaeda. She exposed all that. We've got her coming on later in the week.
Yeah.
But we've got things like that unfolding. What if NSA people, who know what the government's really doing, know what they're into? That's why a lot of the top government people have facilities they go to that have no technology in them. A lot of Hollywood people have now done that because they understand it. I mean, if I was corrupt globalist, I would not have 800,000 contractors with access to top secret stuff and hundreds of thousands that can dial into anything. I mean, that just sounds like a recipe for disaster and something that would burn the establishment. Because next time it's not going to be NSA leakers that are just releasing that they're spying on people. You're going to end up having NSA people, I know they've got snoopers that try to pick up on this, that are going to use this to expose dark side government and narcotics trafficking, snuff filming, all the stuff these guys are into. So what's your take on that? And what are you hearing from your whistleblower sources?
Well, it's not been easy for whistleblowers or members of the press recently because, as you said, Obama has invoked the Espionage Act of 1917. This was invoked by Woodrow Wilson to go after people who did not support the war effort against Germany. And that was a needless war for us to get into on behalf of the British Empire in the First World War. But he's invoked it 6 times. There are grand juries now impaneled on several other people that I'm aware of, whistleblowers and members of the press. We had Peter King saying he wants to go after Glenn Greenwald and Bart Gellman from the Washington Post. This is after what they've done with the AP. Alex, last week I was at the Radio and TV Correspondents' Dinner in Washington, D.C. Obama spoke there in 2009. This is not to be confused with the White House Press Correspondents' Dinner. That's the big Hollywood glitterati one in April. This is the one where the real working journalists are present. Obama did not even RSVP them. They called all afternoon. He didn't send. Last year he sent Biden. He didn't send anyone from the administration. I said, hey, what's going on here? Is Obama, does he want a war with the media? And the answer was, yeah, obviously. And look what's happened. Now we have a leak of a State Department internal report that the U.S. ambassador to Belgium is reputedly not only chasing hookers in Brussels parks,
but also children.
A pedophile. Right, exactly. So why do what are they concerned about with leaks? This is exactly, and I'm glad I could gloat and say, look, I report a Q group and I reported all this years ago. But you know what? I welcome the fact that the corporate media is now focusing on these stories. I'm not going to gloat. I'm not going to say I told you so. I welcome them. I could say I welcome them waking up to smell the coffee. But I'm sincere in that. I'm glad they're looking into it.
All right, I want to come back and take some phone calls with listeners that want to talk to Wayne Madsen. Aaron, devoted ally, Simon, Harvey, Dougal. We're going to get to all of you who want to talk about this NSA situation. ProPure is introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. This is the Pro One by ProPure. You wanted it, you got it. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It cuts out the acid derivative of fluoride. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. This is a revolution against the tyrants. They love putting the toxic acid base of fluoride into your water. They love the fact that it's an adjuvant supercharging the trace Prozac in the water and the hormones and the other chemicals. By cutting out fluoride, you cut out the turbocharger in all the poison being artificially introduced into your body. This is what I use. It's a win-win. You get a high-quality product at the lowest price. You support the InfoWar. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro 1 filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.